Yeah, so thank you for having me here. My name is Srdjan. I'm going to present research with my colleagues. So Karen is my PhD student and Natal is a colleague from Faculty of Law. Thanks for the invitation, and really happy and honored to be able to open this scientific part. So very nice. Do you know that so many people were so disappointed on the 1st of August this year? Because the server was shut down. So, you know, this app created virtual chatbots, and then people, especially women, get used to talking to them, chatting, and those were even able to read novels or bedtime stories. And we have more and more examples like this, and we cannot just ignore them. We need to think about the legal and ethical background of all of this. So I want to talk a bit about this and other examples, and see also, we don't have a lot of time for questions, as I just learned, but during the break, I would be happy to discuss. So don't hesitate to approach me and discuss this. So I really want to know what you think, and also in general, is this some kind of manipulation or whatever? So I have a disclaimer because I'm not sure if this story is even true. So I read it through social media. Some of the colleagues shared it on LinkedIn, and then I wanted to do some kind of serious scientific preparation for the talk to check if it's true, but I didn't find a lot of sources. So I'm putting one of them, and I can share others with you, but I didn't find anything about this startup actually. So this is kind of a disclaimer. And talking about disclaimers, I'm just a computer scientist, so you can see it basically. So I have no diploma in law, philosophy, ethics. So I'm aware this topic is super important. That's why I try to work with my colleagues, and I think we need a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach. So don't hesitate also to give your comments or correct me if you're an expert in law if I say something wrong or stupid. Why am I interested in this? Because I work on computational models of argumentation, and actually we make machines construct arguments, counter arguments, and then identify attacks, supports between them. And also we think that machines can help us in some online debates. I've seen a lot of argument-based persuasion approaches recently, and that made us think that we should talk about some kind of guidelines for those. So the goal of this, of course, very short talk is to view the state of the art and give you some questions. And also I'm going to present a couple of guidelines that we wanted to propose with our colleagues. So this is an example of an argumentative chatbot. Sadly, the screen is very small. I was expecting something where you could actually read the slides, but I'm going to try to explain. So this is done by our colleagues at University College London a couple of years ago, and there is a software was running, maybe still running online, and they also published a scientific paper about this. So they wanted to make something to persuade people to take the vaccine. And then you really need to be sure that you are giving correct answers. So you cannot just put whatever generative process. You really need to know what you are telling people because of the responsibility. So they did use some kind of AI crowdsourcing to gather the arguments against getting vaccinated. But then once they got them, they read them manually and they prepared the answers based on the state-of-the-art knowledge from the medical domain. And then you can chat with this computer, and then you can say, oh, I'm worried about side effects, and then the computer is going to answer this and that. So we don't have that much time to read, but I can forward you this and I can show you later. The point is there are some chatbots already years ago, not only ChatGPT, etc. So people are working on this, and we have a lot of software already running. Okay, with already very sensible topics and questions. So now you know what I'm talking about. Do those systems manipulate us? And not only chatbots, but also other stuff like social media. We don't talk a lot about search engines, but they have a huge impact because you're going to search for so many things. When was the last time you actually typed the the website in your browser, right? So also recommendation system, sometimes it's kind of hidden. You don't think about it a lot, but when you are scrolling, it's all like recommended to you. You don't really click and choose. You do click, but the feed is there for you. And also the chatbots, and they have an enormous impact on emotions, beliefs, and your behaviors, short-term and long-term. So the question is, what are the legal standards? And also, is this kind of ethically wrong if you are not aware? If it's kind of subliminal. So I'm looking for the definition of subliminal and the law, the regulation, and there is actually AI Act. So this is the regulation on AI, and it's still not effective. It's, I don't know what's the legal word, but people are still discussing. This is a proposition, and then it needs to be voted at some point, and then it will become a law. Okay, so it says, because you can see, I need to read. One of the Article 5 says the following AI practices shall be prohibited: placing on the market, putting into service, use of any AI system that deploys subliminal techniques beyond the person's consciousness, materially distort a person's behavior in a manner, blah, 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 physical or psychological harm. Okay, so subliminal techniques are forbidden if they are going to cause some harm. So we need a definition of subliminal techniques. And the problem is that if you go something like sensory stimuli that are too weak to consciously perceive, but still strong enough to impact your behavior, I mean, it sounds really good. I think it's a good definition. But then it makes this article not very applicable, because most of the time you are aware of the ad or something. You are aware that you are chatting with a chatbot. You can read the thing. It's not something that just appeared for 10 milliseconds. You are reading. So the definition legally doesn't apply, okay? So concerning those subliminal techniques, we need to have kind of, the mic doesn't really properly work. So for the rest of the day, if you can do something, I mean, that would be nice. So it would be good to have a general definition, which is general enough and goes beyond really just subliminal techniques, but also is not putting too much constraints on the service provider, so you can actually function and develop your AI. I'm gonna list a couple of principles for how to be ethical in persuasive technology. There's a huge literature. It doesn't start now. It's been like years and decades people study persuasion, etc. So this one is from like the last century, okay? But I think it's quite relevant. Thanks for the mic. So dual privacy says, obviously you need to respect people's privacy. I'm not going to dig into the details. And then accuracy says technology should always be honest and credible. I really like the third one, so I wanted to discuss this a bit. It says that you cannot use persuasion goal if you yourself are not consent of being persuaded by it. So not necessarily you do it. Maybe I don't meditate every day, but I can still try to persuade you to meditate every day because I believe it's good for you. And then it's ethical, because I would also consent to be persuaded to do that. Then it's fine. But I cannot persuade you to smoke because I don't want to be persuaded to smoke, okay? So disclosure says that transparent, and you need to be clear also about your motivation. So I like this. And also intended outcomes, because you don't always talk about this, but you, as a creator of persuasive strategy, even in like non-computer life, you need to think about consequences, right? If you want to be ethical, but especially when somebody is going to do it for you and a machine, you need to think about all the plausible consequences and to prevent the bad ones, right? So I can, yes, it's definitely not. Yeah, thank you. So this is something we try to propose. So those are argumentative dialogues where you actually exchange arguments, as you've seen in another example. And then, so the blue ones are given by the computer system. PG doesn't mean parental guidelines. It means persuasion goal. And then the red ones are the ones given by the person who is being persuaded. So we propose is that actually the computer should show some kind of either recap or graphical representation during the dialogue or at the end, and to be more accountable of so for each of the arguments to be obliged to show the source and the type. So source, you know what it is, like this is World Health Organization writes on this date, etc. And then the type of the arguments, because you can argue by induction, by generalization, by similarity. And there are some argument schemes, as you all know, that are kind of fallacious schemes, ad hominem, etc. So sometimes persuasive systems use those. So if you impose kind of more transparency on them, then they will be more reluctant to do it. I mean, you can always try to cheat, of course, especially if you don't have very high ethical standards. But this would, I think, would be a nice step to make it more difficult to cheat and give fallacious arguments. And then that would make the systems more transparent. So which enhance the human understanding of the system. And also humans could give some kind of feedback at the end. If some of the arguments are not ethical, they could flag them. And once you show them like this, it's much more explicit, so much easier to find what you are not happy about. Not in general, oh, I feel I was being manipulated. No, just go and tag the actual argument. And once you understand the system, I think it's already per se it's good, because that's what we want in AI. We want people to be, we do this for the people, right? So we want them to accept the technology and to be able to explain what we are doing, right? So more transparency, more understanding is good. And also I think there would be more trust, because you understand me better and I'm transparent about my motivations. I guess you're going to trust me better. And then once you trust me better, I think I have a more chance to persuade you about something. So I want to finish this talk by telling that I see this kind as of like win-win situation, actually, because for people it's good, they are going to understand better, but also for the creators of the systems, I think it's good because they have more chance to actually persuade people to do something they want. So I'm going to end with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Srdjan. As I said in the beginning, we'll take one question now, but please just write down or remember your questions for each speaker for later, because our final session at 3 o'clock after lunch will be open discussion, so you can actually ask more stuff to the speakers. So do we have any questions for Srdjan? Oh yeah, Michael.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the topic of topic of argumentation in AI systems is really really something that we have to discover. My question is about the approach. I see that you are trying to impose some kind of regulations, basically to make it, to make the visual algorithm, make visual representation of what AI is doing, right?
Yeah, this is just, as I saw, I'm not imposing regulation because I'm not a lawyer. This is more like on the ethical side. But yeah, we want it to be a bit more transparent. So this is just the work in progress. First, like idea is to show some kind of graph, but it can be different. So, but it's just to make people more transparent.
My question is about the nature of AI, which is based on probability. So, for example, when we have recognition, it's like 95%, 99% probability of recognition. I understand that if we apply something algorithmic, like law or ethical principles, to the systems which have this kind of background, which are based on probability, does it cause contradiction when we apply something algorithmic to something that is based on probability? In this case, applying laws or ethical principles to the systems which, imagine that this system gives you like 95 probability of transparency, and at the very end, it hides something that is behind the system.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. So there are two very good questions. There are two things, like you go from here and from here. This is what you have. This is what you want to have, like in life, but also in AI. So, I mean, I really think about human first, even if I'm a computer scientist, so sometimes I fight for the machines I take this kind for all of devil's advocate in some discussions just with my friends to fight for the use of machines, of course. I like to read science fiction, etc. But yeah, I think in real life, it's human first. So we need to make laws to protect humans first, and we need to make everything around humans. So yes, of course, I know, and we all know that many of the systems today, they are based on a lot of data, a lot of algorithms. So even if theoretically speaking, it is deterministic what they're going to do, we don't know. So for us, it's really, there is kind of a probability that they can do this or that, etc., and have an error. Yes. So this is like everything in air, like automatic cars and somebody is going to be responsible if something bad happens with the automatic cars. You need to lay some ethical foundations, and then you say, this system is not ready. I mean, if it's 95% in recommending a good piece in a theater, then it's probably ready, okay? If it's 95% that then the plane is not going to crash, then it's not ready, okay? So 95% is not always the same. And some systems are just not ready. You need a lot of legislation and a lot of principles to be sure what we do with what we know. If it's just a theoretical discussion, you can say, oh, this argument I give you, I'm 95% or very certain or uncertain that it really answers your concern. If I'm not sure I understood the question, I mean, the system should do exactly like human. Thank you for a question. If I understood it properly, this is the answer. Or to the best of my knowledge, this scientific research addresses this, etc. So this is the way to go. Of course, a lot of open questions stay, but I hope you agree a bit with this. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to continuation of this discussion later on in the day.